Hi guys, so last I did how to choose a monologue. Now I'm going to teach you how to prepare your monologue. Although I'm not going to go over all of it, I'm just going to touch on a few brief things that often get missed in a lot of other monologue videos. Just because it's a lot to cover if I go through all of it. But trust me, if you ask your teacher, they will be willing to help you in any way possible. So first up, for preparing your monologue, I can't emphasize this enough. Memorize it like your life depends on it, because one day it will. You have to be able to say that thing in your sleep. The second thing is, once you have your piece cut and just how you want it, start to create your character. Every good monologue has a character. There's no way that you don't have a character, regardless of what you think. If it's not emphasized, it's still there. Even if you're talking to a large group of people as an inspirational speaker, you're still the inspirational speaker, and that's the character you are. The second thing is follow your argument. So find the argument that is in your piece, which you should have been able to find from choosing your piece. But if you didn't, now's the time to figure out what the argument is. So once you find the argument, follow it. Don't go off on a totally different argument just because you also feel this way, because that's very wishy-washy and doesn't really come off as you really are being this character, because if you're this character, you must full-heartedly believe everything this character is saying. Not, but wait, this right here is what I believe, but this person's wrong. No, now's not the time to argue with the argument. You can do that later. When you are giving the argument, make it clear what the argument is, and by following your argument, generally it will be clear. Like if your monologue is about suicide and how much it affects daily life on the people you leave behind, don't go off on a tangent on something totally different that won't be following your argument or making your argument clear. Make it clear who your intended audience is. In order to do this, sometimes it's a little bit harder to make it clear who your intended audience is. Like I said before, for someone who's being an inspirational speaker, the audience is your intended audience. But it's not always the case. Like if your monologue is arguing with your mom about how much you should be able to do this because you're an adult now, your mom is the intended audience, and you should be able to imagine that she's sitting there and you're talking to her or yelling at her. But that should be clear to your audience that who you're talking to. So if you're having the argument with your mom, don't start arguing with the audience about what you're arguing with your mom about, because those are two separate things. The audience doesn't exist unless you are speaking to the audience. They're just watching this. Because, have you ever watched movies? Probably. Yes, you have. So, in movies, the movie doesn't argue with you. They argue with who the argument's with. Like the wife and the husband are arguing with each other, but they never bring in the audience. Or in Romeo and Juliet, the actors on stage may say asides to the audience, but they're never actually talking to the audience. They're never addressing who's in the audience either. They're always talking to who's on stage. But in a monologue, you don't have the other person on stage. And so you're going to want to make it clear that that person is in your monologue, just not present. Another thing is to practice in front of people. Although it may feel weird to practice in front of people like your friends or your parents, because It's a little awkward at first. It will help you immensely when it comes to being on stage and performing it in front of, guess what? People. So don't be afraid to practice it in front of people, because then when you get up on stage, you'll still be afraid to say it in front of people. So in order to break your comfort zone just a little, not too much, just a little, practice in front of people you're close with, because generally they're the nicest when giving feedback on what you should change and how you should act. My first monologue that I did it in front of my mom, and she gave the best advice with how to draw emotion out of this, because she knew exactly how to say it to me, because of course she's my mom. But the point of practicing in front of people is so that you can hear what they want to say back to you in order to make your monologue the best it can be. Because if you just practice to yourself all the time, you're never going to improve, because you're going to keep making the same mistake. And so the next thing is to practice in front of a mirror. This doesn't work for everyone, but it often works a lot. The reason you want to practice in front of a mirror is to practice the emotion on your face. You may think that you're expressing a sad emotion, but your face doesn't say it at all. So in order to get that emotion, it's best to be able to see what emotion your face is making as well. And yes, it will be a little funny at first because you're talking to yourself, but you'll get over it, I promise. I said this a little bit earlier, but ask others' opinions. Their opinions are highly important to the success of your piece. Ask your classmates, ask your teacher, ask your parents, ask your friends. Ask the person sitting next to you when you're practicing outside, waiting for your parent to pick you up. Yes, it will be awkward. Yes, it will be weird. But I promise you, it will help you. Another thing, practice, 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 practice. It is very obvious when someone hasn't practiced when they get up there. You don't want to be that person, so practice. Practice until you know it so well that you are saying it in the shower without a piece of paper at all. Practice it so much that when someone says a line from it, you automatically start saying it, just like you say that song every now and then when someone says don't stop, and then you fill in the blank. Also, you want to create appropriate movements and actions. So if your character is devastated, you're not going to want to be smiling or jumping around for joy or having your hands all out and all that, because that's not sad. That's either happy or explaining or being sassy. So in order to fully express the emotion you want, you're going to want to have the correct movements that go with that emotion. Imagine if you were really sad. You're going to want to show that emotion through your body gestures and through your body language, because we all know body language. If someone has their arms crossed, a little bit looking mad, we know that they probably don't want to be talked to, because they're probably upset about something and really angry with you. But if they were mad and just looked completely normal, you would have no idea, right? With monologues, you can't say what you're feeling all the time. And so you want to be able to express that through movement and actions. Another one is to create the proper emotion. I have stressed emotion a lot in this video, and I will continue to stress it, because monologues are all about emotion. It's awkward, it's weird, it's hard to pretend to be something that you're not at the time, but this is where drawing on personal experience comes in very handy. So in order to express the emotion, you have to know what the emotion is. if you've never known what it feels like to be depressed, it's going to be really hard to express the emotion of depressed. You can attempt it. It will probably look really good with a lot of practice. But if you don't necessarily know how to express that emotion, you probably should have listened to me in the last video when it comes to choosing the right emotions that relate to you as a person. Also, for creating the proper emotion, you don't want to be smiling and giggling because your friends are giggling over in the corner about you if your character's supposed to be dull or sad or just doesn't feel like doing much and is really a little down in the dumps. You don't want to be happy and express yourself so much and be so excited about something because you're not. That's not the emotion you're going for. The last thing I will touch on is be off book way before your performance. If your performance is in a week, go for it. Be off book now. But if your performance is tomorrow and you're still not off book, it's going to be really hard to be off book tomorrow. So my suggestion is the faster you're off book, the faster you learn it. Because if the second you're off book is the second you have it memorized. And the more you memorize it and the more you practice it while you have it memorized, the better your performance will be. And I know I've probably missed a lot, but if you have any questions, just ask someone that has done a monologue before or someone who's teaching you how to do the monologue. And until next time, I will see you later.